Welcome to another episode of Addiction Uncovered. I'm Jill, your host, and today I'm joined by Haley. Haley's a recovering addict and alcoholic, as well as an advocate for women who have experienced trauma. She's achieved 15 years of sobriety, but recently experienced a relapse. And in 2025, she returned to recovery with a deeper commitment to healing. And now she focuses on breaking cycles, rebuilding self-worth, and creating a healthier life for herself and her family. She hopes to be a beacon of light, resilience, and hope for others walking their own path of healing. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's just start at the beginning. So where did your struggle with addiction begin?
Early age, I look back and always hindsight's 2020. So I look back and I was probably destined for this blessing, which I didn't always think was the case. But about 12 or 13, I took my first drink at an overnight slumber party at a girlfriend's house where family struggled with alcoholism and it was readily available. And we thought, well, we'll have a really good Friday night and get drunk. Instantly knew that it was a reprieve from my mind. I don't know at that age that I really knew that it would turn into what it did, but knew that was the first time I ever felt like completely free in my mind.
Free from just a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. Free from what exactly do you mean?
I would say, those moments, in those moments is the freedom from depression or the freedom of what I know today now is low self-worth or this constant idea there was something wrong with me or why didn't I fit in or I always had this outer shell that looked really nice and pleasing. However, what went on inside my mind. So it quieted that voice for a moment.
Oh, and it feels like freedom in that moment for sure. Yeah. Because I think you and I are probably similar in the fact that our minds go a lot and we're always like striving to do great things and help people and be present and be better and always be growing, right?
Right.
And that gets exhausting as good as it is for us.
That's
so
correct.
Quieting that a bit and escaping from that strive for perfection feels freeing in the moment. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I always struggled with that. I was not, good enough or effectively, like I said, something was wrong with me. And then you have this other side that says, but why do I feel this way? And there's got to be something better, right?
Right. I should be doing more. I should be more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was your teenage years. And then how did that progress?
So as it progressed, a little bit about my background story is I moved a lot as a child. I had a very dysfunctional family life like most alcoholics, addicts do, constantly moving. And then kind of settled down into a place. But then as all kids start to experiment, junior high, high school, smoking cigarettes, drinking, just being a little reckless in all areas. But then always felt like no matter what I did, it didn't really matter. Trying to fit in, try to not fit in, smoke cigarettes, drink, not drink, play sports. I always just had that feeling that I just wasn't quite right. And then it progressed into high school, which during high school, by all accounts, if you looked, it's like, oh, I'm on the honor roll, played sports, was always partying on the weekends, right? And I always gravitated towards the people that were willing to do that. And when I got out of high school is when things really got hard for me the first time around. I got into hard drugs. And that was, again, you are who you associate with, right? And my pattern was I'm going to go find that because, again, there's that level of self-worth. So that's what I thought I was worth at the time. And then you surround yourself with those people and then also the drugs and alcohol. I got pregnant at 19. Had my first son, who's now 28. I'm super proud of.
Wow, that's awesome.
And was able to, I would say, stay abstinent. However, not from the ism part of this. As we talk about alcoholism and drug addiction, it isn't about the using of drugs and alcohol. It's about the illness of the brain and the soul, right? And so I'm very dysfunctional in multiple ways. My children's father was also an alcoholic and addict. We connected in that arena and always wanted something more, but we're stuck, right, in that cycle of addiction and going round and round. And that progressed in many different ways, from breakups to moving to stopping, resolving that, we're going to change our whole lives. And then the cycle would repeat again. So had our second son, who's now 24, super proud of. And at the time, that was probably when it got the worst. very heavily into methamphetamines, very heavily into extremely unhealthy crowds, criminal activity, all those types of things, and had some intervention from family at the time, and started to try treatment. I think that in that relationship, that marriage, my husband went to treatment at 1999 the first time, and I think 2000 I tried, 2001 I tried, and then 2002, and then it finally stuck, right? Something a little bit different transpired for me, and I was willing to do whatever it took at the time. And they said, well, you're not going to have your children right now. You're going to go to this homeless shelter until you're able to get into this halfway house. And then after this halfway house, then we'll see where life goes. At that point, I was so tired. It's like I was tired of that chaos and the damage and the craziness, and I just left one day. At that point, my relationship was extremely domestically violent, and then I became reactively abusive, and so it was abusive on both sides, drugs, alcohol, kids in the mix, and then losing the children was kind of like the final straw for me. It was like, this has gone too far.
That's what I was going to ask, you had several times where you tried different treatments and just nothing really stuck, but maybe the idea of losing your children, and that was the final straw for you, that you thought, okay, well, not that you hadn't tried before, but maybe this was the moment that kind of shined the light bulb on that, to say, okay, I'm ready now. This is very scary.
That is the correct. It's hard not to get teared up. My children saved my life, and they'll never understand that. Greatest gift I ever got was my children. And God said, hey, it's time to maybe get a reality check here. And I loved them more than I loved the chaos, the disease, and the drugs. And, I got sober for them the first time. I really did. It was like, they are my main goal. There's a song by Sarah Evans that is No Place, No Far, or That Far, and I used to listen to it all the time. So it was definitely a motivator at the time. And then also, I think that's when I started to get a little self-worth and realized that I was worth more than that. And I was worth being a mother, and I was worth sobriety, and I was worth a new life. And my kids were definitely worth it. And I fought a battle that I'm grateful for, because I got the opportunity to raise them.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think we always look at how are we impacting the kids and what are we doing to help them grow into these productive humans.
Yeah.
And we forget, or we don't express how much they impact what we do.
Yeah.
And how much they inspire us and motivate us, whether directly or indirectly. Like, at the end of the day, we really do the best we can for them.
Oh, yeah.
No matter how hard it is.
Yeah.
But it's hard, I think, especially for parents that are in the midst of addiction, because we talk about how it changes the brain, right? And so your priorities are totally different. So it no longer becomes like this choice of, well, what's important to me?
Yes.
We have choice in our actions, but at the same time, our brain is telling us, like, that's not important. That's not as important. Right. So we need to do this instead, because that is life or death. These other things are going to be fine regardless,
Yes. Well, you look at it too, and when you're under the influence like that, it's the hijacking of the brain, right? Yep. Like, and that's just one after the other, and then pretty soon it just becomes your devil, right? And you're going round and round. And thank God that had the ability to have some clarity at that moment to say, I want a little something different. And as far as the kiddos go, it's like, I was not only trying to save my own life, I was trying to grow, be a mother, also save their lives, and find a new path, and grieving and hoping, and just a whirlwind of things all at once. And grateful for the ability to do it, and to show up. Did I do it perfectly? Absolutely not. I can't sit here today and say I was the best mother in the world. I can tell you that I did a lot of things right, and that was the gift that recovery gave me, is the option and the hope to keep learning to do something different.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a very wise guest that I had not that long ago. Hint, hint, Tracy. Who said something along the lines
AKA
of...
my BFF over here.
Right. Something along the lines of, it's not about just giving up the using or just giving up one thing. It's changing everything. To change everything about your life, right? And so that is scary, and I think that's what keeps people stuck a lot of times, because you think, what would my life even look like if I didn't have this chaos, I didn't have this drama? And I'll tell you, like, resettling into having a life that's not dramatic, like having a partner who's super stable and sober as well, and consistent, and having this, like, very quiet strange, cozy life. You would think like, oh, that's great. I struggle with it sometimes though, because in my brain I'm like, well, where's the chaos?
Yeah.
What's going on? So we get addicted to that too.
Well, I appreciate that you say that, because kind of going back to that. So from 2002 to 2014, I had a huge period of sobriety there, and the beauty of that, right? But what I had to learn, even though the drugs and alcohol were gone, is how to manage not having a chaotic life. And, you know, you go back, it's breaking patterns, right? And there was things I could see back then and that I was like, okay, we're not going to do this, or we're going to do that. Or even how do you formulate their lives, right? This isn't just about me. This is about our children. This is how each decision impacts. Where are we going to live? What are we going to do? What are best opportunities? And thank goodness during that period of time. But I can tell you, my first round of sobriety, I had a lot of chaos, dead sober. And I can see that today coming back in the program. I can hear with different ears. I can see with different eyes. And I have an understanding that's different. So although I went through hell, the last 8 years, it also gave me a different perspective, and I'm grateful for the lessons. So yeah, a lot of times what I always thought about sobriety was, oh, you just put the plug in the jug and you put the drugs away and you get a job and you go to work and you know, you give these opportunities. But I had this passion and fire, and one, I love to help women, and that's how I got connected with some amazing women in this program, and they helped me. They said, that's not very motherly. That's not very lady. This is not, you know, and they helped sculpt me and shape me, and then gave me the passion, the fire to be like, yeah, you know, I want to get my kids enrolled in hockey or baseball or these things, because I wanted them to meet a new network of people that maybe I didn't have as a child. And so sobriety is so much more than just not drinking and using, you know, having a support group, going to church, whatever way you choose to get sober. Yeah. But then looking at what are my patterns in life, and what a beautiful life, you know? So I get sober, and my kids, I get them back. And then when I got sober, I had to divorce my husband at the time because he was not willing to get sober. And then through a series of events, he came back into my life, and we were able to reunite and remarry in 2008, and had the beautiful ability to raise our children together. However, fast forwarding, here I relapse, and we did that together, and I'm sober today, and sitting here without my family again. And it was like cycle 2, and it was super hard to understand. You know, kids are 28, 24, and 21. They put some distance between what's happened. It's been violent all over again, drug, you know, involved, alcohol on both parts. And then I thought, how did I get here again, God? You know, after all the things, you know, I could give you a list of things I accomplished in sobriety, but the most beautiful thing I like to talk about is my family, my friends in this program, but losing it all again, you know, and but still having some wisdom. You know, you don't lose that foundation of 15 years in the program, and you don't lose what you know, but can you recover it and make it even more exponentially in depth? And how do I say, move to another spiritual plane? I really believe that recovery from whatever, you know, whatever it is in life is really about a journey and a walk with God. And then how do you get on a different spiritual plane and hear and see differently?
That's beautiful. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about where the relapse came from? Because you have a lot of insight now into the life that you want, and you were on your way and on that journey. And I think people struggle with this idea that relapse is part of the process, and that's just for some people. But what happened during that time? Do you think? Have you been able to pinpoint it now to where you know moving forward, like if that situation comes up again, or if I'm feeling that way, I have the skills or the support now to do things differently?
I do. And, you know, one of the greatest gifts I ever got was the ability to go to trauma treatment. And I went to a trauma treatment, and it was trauma, first responders, and grief treatment in May of last year. And because what I realized was I had many periods I could put the drugs, the alcohol away, but I was still very not stable. And I had to get to the root cause. And then I had to start looking at, why did I use drugs? Why did I drink? And go way back, like into my childhood. And one thing I never talked about was the sexual abuse in my home, and neglect. There was a lot of dysfunction in my home. My father was in the military. You know, I lived in a home where my mother was married 6 times. We moved a lot. And there was just some family secrets I wasn't willing to speak about. And that wasn't something I just remembered. That was something that I just tried to sit on. And so looking back in my recovery, it started in 2014. I had a lot of body issues, wasn't pretty enough, wasn't skinny enough. I also had very big commitment issues. Even in my relationship, I wasn't able to open up. My now ex-husband, I've known him since I was 15. I'm 48. He doesn't anything he doesn't know about me except that. And what I realized in this next, relapse that happened is that I hadn't dealt with two core things. And it was the sexual abuse from my childhood and the domestic violence from the first time we were married. And those are the kind of things when they talk about, I choose to go to a program where you share information with a person who mentors you, and you really take a deep dive into what that looks like for you. And it's just one thing I never shared. Mm-hmm. And in a series of events, I started looking at that being restless, irritable, and discontent, but I could never really find out why. Because I went to meetings, I enjoyed my job. I had a great job. And by all accounts, I absolutely love my husband. We had regular routines with our friends. We had a home. But I always just had this unsettling feeling. And a lot of those memories just got to a point where I couldn't control them, right? And so part of this disease is that we like to put Band-Aids on things. And we like to shove them down because it's embarrassing, it's shameful. It's hard enough to come out and say that I use drugs and alcohol to cope. And you look around in the world and you think there's all these people who have had all these things happen and they never did it. And then the shame of sexual abuse, trauma, and just not having stability and security as a child. And what I came to learn is those things are surfacing instead of picking up a phone and calling a friend, or having the ability to be completely honest and unafraid of the consequences. There's a lot of consequences in the family I grew up in. You don't speak. And how do you do that? And I had kept one of my abusers in my life. And so I kept saying, well, no, he's going to believe me now. So how it started was I did the body shaming, right? Cycle of abuse, you're the problem. You're not good enough. Go look pretty, go do this. And I started taking prescription phentermine. And I was like, oh, okay. And that helped a little bit. But I was like, oh, well, then I convinced myself, I am ADHD all over the place. But I thought it would be a really good idea to have a prescription for that. So I started taking Adderall. And then went on a vacation with my then husband and a couple of friends on a motorcycle trip, and decided I was going to drink. And then I told the whole world, I'm like, oh, I can drink. This is great. And I'd love to tell you that I was drunk every day, that I blew up my whole life right away. That's not the case. But I can tell you this, slowly the insanity of this disease started to take a hold of my mind. And then I got angry, and then I got angrier. And where it really went bad is when my father passed away in 2022. And the lid just blew off. And there was really no coming back, because once you open that box, you got to walk through it, and it does not look pretty. Didn't handle everything most prettiest way. However, I'm grateful today to be sitting here because I don't have to carry that monkey on my back. Yeah. And recovery doesn't always look pretty, but what I can say is that I think by the grace of God, wonderful people who picked up their phone, didn't judge me, didn't want to get in the middle of my chaos, right? Because there was chaos all over the place. I'm still cleaning up some of that wreckage, but and loved me, and had saw me at my best and loved me at my worst, and said, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And got me back to the roots of what helped me in 2002, but in a different way.
But that meant that you had to reach out and you had to start talking to people. How did you start that?
So in the midst of all this, this last year's been wild. I left the area that I was in, my home, and I left and went to Lincoln. And then, of course, I'm still using and not sober. And then I go back home, and I was just laying in my brand new house on the couch, staring at the ceiling, just dying. And I kept thinking, no one's coming to save you. And God has shown you multiple times that if you don't get up off this couch, like your ending is not going to be wonderful. And that was just a place I didn't want to go. So I picked up a bag of clothes and came to Omaha. And got to give a shout out to a good friend who raised our kids together, and she said, you can stay in my house. And I said, thank God. And again, though, this disease almost got me again, because I had went to the store and bought everything to overdose that I could think of. And I'm going to get emotional. This fine lady over here, Tracy Curtis, called me out of the blue and said, I had an amazing thing happen to me today. And I just wanted to call and tell you, because I'm not sure without you picking up the phone when I needed you to, that I would be here today. And you're just a person I wanted to call. And I remember I was in such an awful place. I didn't really have words other than I was just so grateful to hear her voice. And that I was so grateful that she had this wonderful experience. And I would tell that, but it's not my story to tell. But I was just so proud because I knew where she came from. And it was the first time in a really long time that I had heard something that I did good, that I had been there at one point for someone else. And in that darkest moment, it was a beacon of light that just said, you're not all bad. And I remember calling her the next day, scared, because we'd had a falling out from our own things and my using, and it was a mess. And I just said, I'm scared, but I need you to come with me. I would like to go back to my support system, and I can't go alone. I'm scared right now. She said, I'll pick you up. And so thank God, someone picked up the phone and called me. Sometimes in our darkest moments, we need people to call us, especially if we're super strong. And this disease speaks to us in so many different ways. It tells us everything you ever did doesn't matter. Do you see all the people that hate you? And I had a lot of challenges to overcome this last year. It wasn't one area. It was everywhere I turned. And I will forever be grateful that God sent her.
Yep. Get me emotional too.
Oh, I know. It's hard not to be emotional. And that's one thing I used to hide, but I'm just so grateful. And, I got to give all that glory to God, because that's what this world's about, is putting the right people in the right places at the right time.
Well, it just makes me think the universe is so interesting, and we get these kind of feelings of, we should probably call this person. I'm thinking of this person.
Yeah.
Should I call them? Should I not call them? And usually the answer is call them.
Correct.
Because you never know. If she wouldn't have chosen you to make that phone call to share that news, I mean, you may have ended up here in some way, somehow, in a different path, but here you are. And so those small little moments of, hey, I thought of you today.
Yeah.
Like, those things really make a big difference for people. You never know what kind of difference it will make.
Right. And that was one of those moments too, that it started to open my eyes to see a few other people that had been there along the way. It's like, because when I got that phone call, she called me in the darkest moment, and it was just like, wow, like someone thought of me. And then to combat that disease, it's like, well, you have an aunt that thinks of you too. She calls. It's like sometimes we get this tunnel vision, but you realize that there's been little people along the path. But without that major phone call from her, I don't know that I would have woke up to see all those blessings along the way. And even when my voice shook, I decided to speak anyways. And one person I'll also be grateful for is my aunt, who believed me when I finally told the truth. And that's something that Tracy always gave to me as well. She said, no matter where you've been, what's happened, we'll walk right through it together. And we spent a lot of years in sobriety together, and that was one of those things that reminded me as well of all the good and how grateful you are. And you're right, I might have ended up somewhere along the way, but I know that God puts the right people in your path every single time. And it might not be a huge army at that moment, right? But it's important people that you can hear. And they say, I see you, I hear you, and I love you no matter what. And I needed to hear that, because it's been a rough few years.
Yeah. So it kind of leads me into the next question is, with the support that you had from the other women in your life, the other people in your life, I know you really feel strongly about advocating for people who have trauma and women who are coming together and empowering each other. Like, tell me a little bit more about what that is for you, why that's important.
Well, I think so many times that, you can go on a societal, perspective. One, I don't care if you're male or female. There's shame, stigma attached to mental health. substance abuse, trauma, sexual abuse. A lot of times victims are re-victimized even by systems that are supposed to help them. And it's not an intentional thing, I believe, by everyone, but I think it's a lack of ignorance, which just means a lack of knowledge. And how to deal with that, And one of the things that I've seen through my own experience, having sought treatment on multiple different occasions, and until I got to the right place, is I had people discount my trauma. I had people say, well, I was told by your abuser, or I was told by this person, you have a drug problem. And, drug addicts are pathological liars. And I tried to get help a couple of different times. I was shut down by professionals. And so why I'm passionate, and I don't think that was malicious. I don't think it was anything intentful. Again, I think it was just a lack of knowledge. And I think, we've gotten very much more open, I think, over the last 15, 20 years, in the years of, in the realm of therapy, trauma-informed care, those kind of things. But is it just words being said, or are we really seeing these individuals? I also come from a background where my mother and I have a tumultuous relationship, and I don't want to go into too much of that. A lot of competition, and I don't think that women should compete with each other. I think there's nothing in this world that we can't do together. Hold hands. Yep, invite the third and fourth and fifth, sixth women or woman to come along. Nobody should be left out. I also experienced extreme bullying when I was younger in both junior high and high school. And I think that so many times when someone speaks up, I don't really like the word victim. I think it's a term that was given out because it also reinforces some things.
Sure.
But when somebody finally speaks up, that's the majority says, well, we don't want to address that because we might have to self-reflect, right? Or I stood there when I should have said something. Or I participated and I felt coerced because, junior high kids, well, they're just trying to follow the crowd. Or high school kids are trying to follow the crowd. Or in families, it's terrifying when you have somebody who has that much power in your family. Then you challenge the family paradigm, right? Well, absolutely. Everything's perfect. Everything's fine. Okay, let's put Band-Aids over things. And the person who speaks out is like, well, we're going to put you clear over here because then that breaks our idea of a perfect picture, right? And then I think it also makes people face maybe trauma in their own lives. And so you have to be pretty courageous and brave to stand with a soul who's telling you some really hard things and then reflect on that. And so I guess for me, I don't want anybody to suffer. I am a person that loves to see people win, or succeed, or whatever word you like to use. And some people would say that I probably just love glitters and sunshine and bows and all that stuff. But you know what? Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I want that for humanity.
That yeah.
I do. And I think that there's not enough kindness in the world anymore. And, be the change and spread that kindness. So I'm extremely passionate about it and had a couple of very amazing opportunities in the last few months to sit at some amazing tables where people are doing some great work in this community. And I am excited going forward. And also with my BFF and partner in crime over here to do some amazing things, and getting those invitations and saying yes. And so I think that the more that we speak, I think the more that we're alike. I think that individuals who are most uncomfortable with those conversations may have some struggles of their own, and they need to know it's okay to speak. I have been on that side where I'm the strong one and I'm not going to talk about anything. So everything that I've said, I've done myself. Having had to sit down and stop running and be brave enough and God courage enough to be like, I can't run from this anymore. I don't want to. And there's a reason God keeps bringing it to me. Because if I'm unhealed, I can't help anybody. And so today I want to be healed. And I also want to show my kids a different way to live.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So my last question.
Okay.
And you've said so many things in here that have been inspiring. So I'm sure somebody's going to pick up on at least one little nugget of inspiration that you've given. But if there's something that you would want to tell someone who is currently struggling with addiction, working through their trauma, and just feeling like where you were on the couch staring at the ceiling, just feeling totally hopeless, what would you tell them?
Pray. You're not crazy. There is a solution, and there's an army of people out there. And if you don't have an army, you can call me. That it will get better. It's not going to be easy. And I think that's the hardest part, is it's not easy work. But one day at a time, 1 minute at a time, and you are loved more than you will ever know. And even if it isn't your current circumstances, there's people out there that are, you have a purpose and they're yearning for that. You know, it's like we all intercede with all these different people in our lifetime, and then, you know, what mark, and every single person has worth. Even if other people are telling you don't.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being here, sharing all of that. And again, I'm sure there's so much inspiration in there for people who need to hear that. You know, I know that you have a lot of exciting things coming, and I think you and I are going to be having a lot of talks about those exciting things. So I'm very, very pumped about that. But I think the message that you and I both have is, like, we have to keep talking about this. We have to come together and find like-minded people that are able and willing to have these hard conversations and talk about it out loud. Because that's really the best way for us to create movement and for more people to get help. So thank you for being here and for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Of course.